For the news, 9 people are now confirmed dead in the gas explosion that brought down part of a block of flats in Astrakhan yesterday. 1 person remains unaccounted for.
And this was the latest in the spate of deadly gas explosions in Russia this year. Prime Time's Thabang Motsei joins us now with more. Tabby, that's exactly what we want to hear from you. Tell us the latest.
Well, just like in your opening, you said that 9 bodies have now just been found under that debris in Astrakhan, and 1 more person is still unaccounted for, so that 1 more person is still missing. One to remember is that the collapse of that building, it was a 9-story building that partially collapsed. It had 125 flats in it, residential flats that housed about 313 people. Now you can imagine when that building partially collapsed, a lot of the buildings went down, a lot of the side buildings went down with it. There's also 1 shop that was located at the bottom of that building. And so far authorities say about 9 of the flats have partially survived that fall. If you look at the footage that we're running at the moment, you'll just see how devastating this explosion was. In fact, we need to really pay homage to the people who were at that scene in the beginning of that explosion. Some just people, passers-by, who rushed towards the building site when it collapsed, listening to cries of help from the people who are already stuck there. There's actually a scene right now in the footage where you can see there's a child being pulled out of the debris just minutes after that building actually collapsed. So it's really a miracle that so many people were able to survive that fall. In fact, of course, it's sad that a lot of them, now 9 of them, have now passed away. The other thing to remember is that something of this magnitude takes in a lot of people to come in and rescue everybody who's there. There's a lot of residents who are there who have now lost their homes and have now been housed in a school just nearby where that building was located. And they've been supplied with medical supplies, with food, taking down details of to have they accounted for everybody in their families, and also physicians and psychologists to help them deal with the magnitude of this blow. At the moment, the emergency service personnel that is on that site is running around the 500 mark. We're talking about everybody from ambulances to diggers. In fact, the machinery that they're actually using at the moment, they've said that they've got about 123 pieces of equipment that they're using to try to get whatever is left to salvage underneath there, and more importantly, to try to find if there are any survivors or any missing bodies, to try to find them. They've also, the governor has also made sure that there's 2 planes that are available for the people in Astrakhan who need to be transported to other hospitals or who might need medical supplies or food. The latest data that we have in terms of how many people, in terms of fatalities, is that 26 people have now been registered to have been rescued out of that wreckage. In fact, 18 of them were indeed embedded within that debris. 2 of them are children who are now hospitalized, and 7 other people were also hospitalized. Now, these people, their conditions have been normalized. The doctors have said that their condition is actually normal. These numbers will change, so we'll obviously keep a close eye on that. An important factor that came through this afternoon is that the governor has said that tomorrow will be a day of mourning, and he says that this tragedy is so close to his heart that he is willing to make sure that every single person who was affected by this tragedy is compensated in the right way and that they're rehoused properly.
Yeah, you said that the figures will be changing fairly quickly, and I'm very sad to say that there has been a 10th person confirmed dead from that explosion. We've even updated the numbers on the screen while you were speaking. Yesterday we were talking about how the explosion, it was thought at the time, could have originated from a shop, I think, on the ground floor. Is it any clearer now? What do investigators say about where the explosion originated?
Well, the investigation is still underway. In fact, the gas explosion that we're talking about now, there's different sources that investigators are saying could come from. Like you said, the shop at the bottom could be one of the sources. But mostly they're looking closely at 2 floors, the 3rd floor and the 4th floor, where tenants were renovating those flats. And the investigators are saying that those flats were not properly regulated in terms of that renovation, and so they're looking closely to see if that gas explosion did come from one of those 2 floors which were renovating their flats. The other thing that they're not ruling out is that they've actually heard stories and from the residents themselves saying that a man on the 3rd floor who's known to have drinks a lot and has also threatened and mentioned the fact that he is going to commit suicide using exactly the same method that this building exploded. So they're looking at whether this was a suicide attempt from this man. You know, those buildings, that building now, the structural building is what's important right now, is to make sure that the part that hasn't totally collapsed, is it going to be fixed? Can they renovate it, or do they have to rebuild everything once again? So there's no clear indication who is to blame yet, but investigators are looking closely at those 2 possibilities.
Thabi, Prime Minister / presidential hopeful Vladimir Putin visited the site of the tragedy today. What did he have to say about all of this?
Well, he did make a surprise visit there, and in fact, the first thing he ordered was to he ordered that the council, the people who are taking care of this building, be suspended until this investigation has been cleared. In fact, earlier on, we actually got confirmation that 5 engineers who were working on those flats that were being renovated had been detained, and 4 of them have actually now been charged in this investigation. The other thing that's important to note is that the Prime Minister has said that people should be compensated for their loss of valuables, and also to be rehoused. That's an important factor in this. So 1 million rubles will be allocated to those people who have been affected by this tragedy, and 1 more million will be allocated to the rehousing of all the people who have lost their belongings and have lost their houses. The governor has said that this will take about 10 to 15 days to actually come to fruition. So we're looking towards those 10 to 15 days to make sure that those people have been rehoused. Now, something to remember is that this gas explosion comes just behind, 3 gas explosions already this year in the Moscow region. The first one we heard of just the beginning of the year was at that Italian El Pittori restaurant in Moscow that had 2 people were killed in it and 41 people were injured in that blast. The other one is to remember is in Volgorod. No one was declared dead in that one. However, there were a lot of people who were also injured. And the last one that we last heard of was actually at a Moscow residential place where nobody was reported injured. So a lot of consensus from communities and from authorities are saying we need to put pressure on those people who are making sure that those gas leakages, that the gas is controlled and it's being checked on a regular basis, so that things like this, tragedies like this, do not happen.
Okay, thank you too. That's Thabang Motsei reporting for us on the gas explosion that took place in an apartment block yesterday in Astrakhan. Just to let you know, the death toll has now risen to 10.